Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Real Talk. Today I have my very first special guest, my mummy. Say hi.
Hi guys.
It's Roshni Menon, everybody. Roshni Menon on the blog. Um, and I thought I could drag her onto my show because it's good to talk about dealing with people who are insufferable like me, and also dealing with people who need some help sometimes. Isn't that right?
Well, I think we all need help sometimes. So, yeah, I guess it's just about dealing with people you love in a kind way.
You heard it from her first. Okay, so the first thing I think we want to talk about is what is your view on, I guess, mental health and the importance of talking about it?
To be honest, I think for me, it's something that's absolutely vital. And as a medical doctor, I don't understand why mental health, unlike physical health, tends to be stigmatized. It seems really almost to make no sense that, if you have liver failure or diabetes or high blood pressure, the first thing someone would say is, oh, go and see a doctor, they'll be able to help and they'll be able to sort it out. But when it comes to mental health, people don't want to talk about it as easily. It's almost as if it's someone's fault that you have that your mental health is suffering. And it seemed very much as a blame game and something that people are still quite ashamed of. And I think that, especially when it comes to young people, if we open up conversations about it, and therefore I'm really proud of you for doing this, then it becomes something that we recognize that everyone at some stage in their life probably suffers with poor mental health. And this is from the point of view of every big life change that we have, whether it's moving away from home, whether it's, having a divorce, whether it's grieving somebody. And it's just every one of us goes through moments where we need help with our mental health. And I think being able to seek it out, know that we need help, I don't know, it's so important.
It's a pretty good answer right there. Um, you were saying that it's important for everybody to get help for their mental health problems when they need it. Um, what do you think? Well, actually, I'm interested. Do you think that you've gone through a down period? And if you did, what do you think was the thing that helped you get through it the most? Or was there a specific person or, like, I don't know, a song or food or something that, like, helped you get through that?
Well, I think there have been many difficult moments in my life. The first kind of big significant one was probably when my father passed away. I was 33 years old. I had just had Reina, my youngest child. Um, you know,
Our lives.
the love of my life, our lives. um, you know, I had just had her 5 months before she was a baby. And it was tough because I had a newborn baby. I was going through that post partum period. Not that I had any mental health issues directly from that, but my dad being in intensive care for a month and then passing away without me being able to say goodbye was really tough. And at that point, one being in Malaysia, where mental health is not something that's big or discussed or talked about, or it's still a very tough topic in Asia. in general. I just kind of fortified myself. I used anger as a big tool, and then I carried on. And it was much later when someone pointed out that I have a really beautiful life and that I'm not actually enjoying it, that I decided that I needed to kind of do something about it. And I guess it took a lot of self reflection at that point, a lot of reading, a lot of trying to understand what had happened and how actually no one was to blame, and how actually I might not have changed the outcome, even though I was, medically qualified. Um, and it's only after that kind of period, and that took a good 8 to 10 years, that I kind of realized that, I can let it go and that there are better ways to deal with grief, I guess. The second time that I went through a period of not quite understanding how to deal with things was when you were going through your, difficult time during COVID. And actually, I did reach out to a therapist who guided my thoughts and guided my kind of feelings about it, and kind of set me on a path to understanding what my role was in helping you and how I could be supportive, but that ultimately the changes were your changes to make, and that I needed to give you autonomy over how you dealt with things as well, because it wasn't for me to kind of manipulate or, I you know me, I'm a doer. I like to do, I like to solve, I like to help, I like to kind of, find a solution for things. And sometimes when you kind of like to control the narrative like that, you find it very hard to let go of it and say, actually, my role is quite a supporting role, and it's not the main, I'm not main cast in this, and you had to kind of own it. And I think that that's kind of the point at which we began to respect how I felt about it. You could see how I felt about it, and I was never dishonest with you. But at the same time, I also kind of let go and gave you a bit of control over how you were gonna, right?
Deal with it, yeah.
Address stuff and deal with it.
I think there were three big things that you said. Well, one of them is one of the most like underrepresented forms of depression, I think, is postpartum depression. And I think that's like a massive one that a lot of women have to deal with after giving birth. And I think that people almost use it as an excuse to antagonize or villainize the mother, because they're like, what do you mean you just like feel sad now that you've given birth? Like, you're meant to be enjoying this part of your life. It's meant to be something like massive and amazing. So why aren't you, you know?
And the thing is that if we recognize that it's all hormone driven, and that it is a physical as well as the chemicals are just not helping.
Yeah.
If we are able to recognize that, then you don't vilify the person.
Yeah.
You try to get them help.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of like research and work that needs to be done looking into postpartum depression and making people more aware of it and how to like.
I think the research is actually there. I just think that it's attitudes and education.
Yeah. Education.
And I think, making people aware that it's not unusual to feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one was, you said that it took someone else reminding you how beautiful your life is for you to then begin reflecting on yourself and the way you are looking at your life. And I think that's a really important thing, because it just reminds us that we need other people to, I guess, show us how many things we have in our life to be grateful for. And I think that's something that also really helped me, like having people around me, not necessarily telling me that, oh, your life is amazing or whatever, but having people around me to do things with me, or, have fun with me, or make me feel better when I was feeling down, definitely helped me like change my perspective
And I think
on the
that's
whole
the
situation,
that's
kind
the
of.
key word is perspective.
Perspective, definitely.
And it's about having perspective, and
Yeah.
it's about knowing that, okay, it's a cycle. We feel down, we feel up, and it's normal. This is normal. Life is never, beautiful every day in the same way. It's down and up and down and up, and if you realize that you have perspective and things will go in a cycle, then you just flow with it a lot better, a lot
Yeah.
you sit with it a lot easier.
And I think that's also part of like changing the idea that mental illness is something that you can cure. It's not something you can cure, it's just something you learn to deal with a bit better, and you learn to sit with your emotions better without, you know, using self-destructive coping strategies or things like that. And again, that's to do with changing your perspective and understanding that it comes and it goes, and there's nothing wrong with you if it happens to you more than once in your life. So yeah. um there was one more thing. I'm really trying to think about it, but I had another question for you. When I was going through my hard times and you were learning to deal with that and learning to like where the boundaries were, like, how did you feel in yourself?
I felt like I had no control over this situation. I was anxious. I was, nervous that I couldn't kind of narrate the outcome. And I was unsure, scared,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that what I learned to do was I learned to trust
Mm-hmm.
you. And I learned to trust that if you were reaching out and telling me how you were feeling, that then I could trust you to know the right thing at the right moment.
Yeah.
And I could trust you to kind of guide how you were going to want this to work out. And I think for me as a parent, kind of letting go of that and listening and trying to understand
Mm.
rather than trying to direct it necessarily, or solve it. That was a huge learning curve, and I think it took me a while to get used to that idea,
Mm-hmm.
and to also kind of just get to a point where I trusted that you knew I was there
Yeah.
when you need me,
Yeah.
rather than me kind of always being there
Yeah.
to prove that I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
That
know what
makes
I mean?
sense.
Like it's weird, but do you get it?
Yeah. But I feel like that's a really hard thing to do, to like trust. Like you just don't know, but you've just got to trust. But I also feel like I could almost tell when you were ready to like let me handle things at my own pace, or like, I don't know. I just think that
Did it make a difference
I
to
think
how you felt about you?
definitely. I don't know. I just like you said, it was hard to like feel in control of the whole situation, but I feel like having people trust me and know that I sort of knew the best. Okay, obviously I didn't know the best way to like deal with it by myself, but like I knew myself the best and I knew what I needed when I needed. I think that really helped me take control of the situation by myself.
I think
And
because ultimately, with all of us, when it
mm,
comes to, feeling better
yeah,
in any way, we are the ones that know ourselves best, and we know what it's going to take, whether it's going to be, talking to a friend, or whether it's going to be being by yourself and reflecting on it, or
yeah,
whether it's going to be kind of distracting yourself and doing something completely different
yeah,
until that feeling passes. We know ourselves best.
yeah.
And I guess what I needed for you to do was come to a place where you trusted your instinct.
Mm,
Um, and once I saw that you could do that, then I could trust you with it,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And what do you think? Well, I guess in terms of, well, obviously you were like looking out for me and making sure my mental health was fine, but how did you I guess, deal with your own, because obviously it wasn't easy to help someone else. So
Well, like I said, I spoke to
a
a
therapist.
therapist
Yep.
twice
Yep.
or three times,
Mhm.
just to kind of reframe things and put it all in perspective for me and what my role was and how I could assist without being overbearing, and that helped
Mhm.
a huge amount. But also, I have a lot of faith,
Yeah.
and I think relying on my faith and knowing that I could just frame things positively for myself and therefore positively for you, and
Mhm.
just send those vibes out into the universe,
Yeah.
as woo woo as that sounds. I think it helped me.
Yeah.
And I think the I mean, people say this all the time, and I completely agree with it. If you have a happy mother, you'll have a happy child.
Happy wife, happy chife.
You
Like,
know what I mean?
yeah, like happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. So
Funny,
happy
right?
mother,
Wait,
happy
funny, right?
child. Kind of
But
funny. Kind of funny. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
you actually thought it was funny.
yeah. But yeah, and I think, yeah. So yeah, that's it.
So,
Basically.
if you had one piece of advice to other mothers or parents who are helping their own child navigate through a tough time in their life, what would be your main bit of advice?
Well, I think it's kind of threefold.
Okay,
Oh no, now I've committed to three things.
now you have.
One, don't be afraid to seek help for yourself,
Yeah.
not for your child, for yourself,
Mhm.
because it is a hard thing to deal with. Two, be open and rely on the people who love you,
Mhm.
because they are always there. And even if they provide a completely different perspective, or even if they come up with the most outrageous of things, it still is a place that's safe for you to say how you feel and what you need. And three, trust that it's going to get better, because it if you are doing your best and you are giving out as much love and as much support and as much care as you can, it can only get better.
That's a really optimistic take. I really like that. It's very nice. It's a very positive outlook.
It's just the way I feel. I mean, you can't live your life thinking everything's going to fall apart. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no point in that.
exactly.
So you might as well live your life thinking it's going to work itself out.
Exactly.
And then that's what you're kind of aiming for, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think all the mothers out there are going to appreciate this episode and your little snippets of wisdom.
Reads, if you say so.
We've been so calm. We've put Roki to sleep.
Yeah,
He's snoring.
right here next to us.
Don't know if you guys can hear that.
Ooh,
Oh, that was a big
doggy
one.
snore.
That was a big one. But that was the first little special guest snippet episode miniature interview that we've done. And thank you, Mama, for joining us.
Thank you, Evie, for asking me.
If anybody has any questions for Dr. Roshni Menon, master in allergy, what else are you a master in?
ENT, head and neck surgery.
Head and neck surgery.
This is news to you, seriously.
I thought it was ENT, just ENT.
Do it.
Guys,
You
ask
love
your
that part.
parents what they do. It's important to know these things. But yeah, anyways, so to end, obviously, we're going to have to do a joke of the day. Mum, are you ready for this one?
Go on.
Why did the duck go to jail?
Because it was a quack.
Because he was selling quack.
Well, I wasn't too far off.
No, you are far off. My joke is much funnier. That's it. Thank you for listening. I love you all. See you next time. Guys, she came up with a joke once the episode ended.
No,
She has to tell it now.
I will not
Roshni, Dr. Roshni Menon, Master in Allergy, Master of ENT, Master of Head and Neck Surgery. Please tell us your joke. Please.
You can tell it.
No, she's telling it now.
Why did Dr. Duck get dismissed by the tribunal?
Why?
Because he was a quack.
I'm audibly not laughing. Okay, so there you go. Now I'm saying bye properly. Bye!